New for 2024, something we've all been waiting for, the Detroit Jazz Festival Vintage Store, where you can buy original Detroit Jazz Festival posters, over 44 years of jazz history, only available from the source, DetroitJazzFest.org. Simply go to the website and click on Buy Vintage Posters. Something we've all been waiting for 44 years. DetroitJazzFest.org.
Hello, Chris Collins here, President and Artistic Director of the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation. Welcome to this special edition of the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation's JazzChat Live, our monthly program that features panel discussions and artist interviews with some of the leading jazz artists in the world.
Tonight's very special guest. You can join this live conversation by using the Zoom chat feature. Simply click the chat button at the bottom of the Zoom window, type your question, and hit send. For more information on this or any Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation events, simply visit our website at DetroitJazzFest.org. Now, let's get to the cats. All right, to the cats we are tonight, without a doubt. Gentlemen, it's so great to have you here. I think everyone watching the show knows who we have. All brief introductions, is particular joy for me. An incredibly unique, personalized, creative voice on the saxophone, but also a great composer, producer, founded the wonderful label and so many other things. Just it's a joy because he's a visionary in so many different ways and continues to add so much to our world. The great Ravi Coltrane is with us. Ravi, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be here.
A very, very special event here. We often talk about the ecosystem of the creative music industry, and even at the festival, we have different projects to expose aspiring folks in our community to all the amazing industries and careers and pathways there are to express themselves and use their visionary creativity. And there is few that have used it in so many unique ways as our next guest, with whether it's with record companies or with special projects, or really designing and envisioning a brand that represents the spirit and the beauty of an artist in their art design that is such a visual indication of the music behind it. We have this incredible artist, the great Hollis King, is with us. Can't thank you enough, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chris.
So we're gonna jump right in because this is revolving around quite a special event at the 2024 Detroit Jazz Festival, and there's a lot of work behind it, and I want to kind of touch on that so everyone knows how special this is. On opening night at Jazz Fest on August the 30th, the festival will begin with a piece that comes from a project called The Year of Alice, celebrating the amazing music and contributions of one of our Detroit sisters, the great Alice Coltrane, and someone who while I hear more and more young people referencing her music, she's certainly someone that we need to spend more time on as a Detroit native and what she's brought to our musical world. It's Translinear Light, and it's a very special piece of music that will be premiered in its current form at the Jazz Fest with Ravi and Brandy Younger and the band and the Detroit Jazz Fest Chamber Orchestra. And I want to start with you, Ravi. Could you give everyone some sense of the inspiration to bring this piece out now, and to take the record we all know, Translinear Light, and others, and turn it into to what it's going to be for us on August 30th, and what it means to you?
Oh, well, Chris, thank you again for having us both, and for helping us put this project together for Detroit. My mother just had a very broad musical vision. And most of her records, if not all of them, she really has had the opportunity to explore and express that vision. And many of her records had, additional string players or orchestral players, but there weren't any real opportunities for her to do that live. And I know how much she had that sound in her ear. Um, and we did do one concert with her with a small chamber orchestra and strings and vocalists. And that was at NJ Pack in Jersey. It was in 2006. She passed away just a few months after that. And she got very excited about that project and arranged a lot of her earlier music for strings. And we only performed it once. So, the idea of celebrating her music and her life now, well, it came from the recognition that we're going to be celebrating the centennial of John Coltrane in 2026. And we thought, what would be a better lead up to that than to showcase Alice and recognize her works, and so this concert is one of the main parts of this year of Alice.
That's wonderful, and it means so much to all of us here in the city of Detroit, because we take great pride in the jazz legacy here and the symbiotic relationship between our culture and the music itself, and to be able to be the first to present this in Detroit, where she's from, where people not only know and respect the legacy, but anyone who's spent any time with your mom's music, I think to a Detroiter, the influence of the city and gospel and spiritual elements and other, things unique to the city come through immediately. And in fact, I remember as a young man being so struck, of course, listening to John a lot, coming up as a saxophone player, but then when Alice continued and began to do her own projects, there was such a clarity in what she brought from her background that was, to me, quite fresh from what I had been familiar with her
Mhm.
playing with
Mhm.
John. And I know it means a lot to the city. So thank you for working with us along with the Coltrane home to make this project happen here in the city. It's
Thank you, brother. Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
great.
Yeah.
Before we came on, getting to know Mr. Hollis King, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see, Translinear Light is like 2003, 2004.
2005.
Okay, all right, right in there. And such a great record, as we said, to have something come out from Alice after that long period of
About 25 years.
yeah, and it was stunning, and to hear Robbie, to hear you and all the cats was amazing. I personally still love those moments where it's mother and son in a man that just still makes me
Yeah,
feel emotional. It's great meaning.
for
And
me as
Hollis,
well.
you were the artistic director on that album, and I'm sure you were talking a little bit about the session and being involved and what it meant to you. Can you share that with us a little bit?
So, there are things in your life that come along that can change you fundamentally. Alice Coltrane was one of those people for me. There is a kind of understanding of the world that someone can synthesize for you by the way they speak to you, by the way they express themselves. I found it fascinating that when she spoke, you did not need one more breath, one more word, one more sentence for clarity. And I remember thinking, this is special. Walking around a home with her, and talking to her and then watching her and Ravi communicate in the studio, how she has the hands that you need a thousandth of a second to freeze in a photograph because they're moving so fast between the keys. And translating, first of all, the kind of respect that I have had for the Coltrane family and working on the music for so long, and then having an opportunity to work with her in the studio and trying to select the photographer who should make this photograph, how we should do it, and make sure we make it as comfortable as we can for her. No fussing. She would say, "Oh, Hollis, what should I do?" And I stand there, "Oh, Hollis, just and being different and trying to just treat her as how she deserves. And I remember we go off Sunset Boulevard, and I selected this guy by the name of Jeff Dunas, legendary photographer who has shot America Who's Who, right? He had a beautiful space up on the hill, and we make sure everything was good. And it was very simple. I didn't want her to perform. I didn't want her to do anything. I just wanted her to stand because she carried such presence. So when you look at those photos, those are her normal colors of what she wears. Everything is hers. The background is simple. And those colors pop out on their own on a gray background. You know, you don't have to gild a lily. It's just beautiful. You don't have to do anything more with Alice. Alice just has to be there.
Oh, yes.
Wow, that's beautiful, man. Um, yeah, I am probably the antithesis of that. My emails have been referred to as the War and Peace of emails. So I'm trying to be more streamlined with my language on and off the bandstand, by the way. But as you know, with the Jazz Fest, whenever one has an opportunity to speak about the true core of this music, boy, you just with people who can add so much, it's difficult to let the conversation end, much less
Yeah. It's easy to stretch out.
it is. And on that note, I mean, there's a very important collaboration here, and I think you would all agree. I mean, we all learned this on the bandstand is this is nothing. This what we do is nothing without collaboration, and they're all different types, but it's really special in this world when different organizations with different needs and perspectives and visions of who they want to be as individuals come together for something greater. And I think this piece, this Year of Alice, this entire project is one of those where it took a lot of players and a lot of vision and a lot of connectivity through you, Ravi and Hollis, to the alpha version of the materials, which is very hard to get to sometimes when you're looking to celebrate an artist. All taken together, though, uh, there was these wonderful group of folks, of which the Friends of the Coltrane Home. I know, Robbie, you're the CEO and president, and Hollis, the creative director and board member. And it's this beautiful vision to revitalize and share with the world the Long Island home of your parents, Robbie, John, and Alice. And but correct me if I'm wrong, it was the home you were born in, correct, before LA?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
First 6 years of my life spent in that house.
Wow.
Was not born literally in the house. I was born in Huntington Hospital down the road. Um, but yeah, that's my childhood home.
Well, I want to, the foundation and the organization and their vision is so important, but I just want to say I had the great privilege, thanks to Kathy and Sarah, that we came out there with to do an interview and some video and we put that on social. There's also a wonderful interview and piece that's going to be in the Jazz Fest Journal this year at the festival about it. But just personally speaking, I can tell you, of course, it's under major renovation now, and incredible work has been done. But to just walking in the space and being introduced to the window was out, but the round window into the meditation room and the things I'd as a kid you read about or you hear about in a biography, the room where John offered Love Supreme, and all that was certainly moving. The presence was intense for me, but I have to be
Hmm.
honest, the biggest kick I got, again, I guess I reverted back to being a 16-year-old kid. You're listening to these great musicians on vinyl. You're reading the liner notes 1,000 times and looking at what images you could find. And people become bigger than life. They become superheroes beyond normal existence. So to come to the Coltrane home and see the imagery of you guys as children and John in shorts raking leaves. It was just like a stunning thing, man. These were real. These are real people, family people. Your mom getting out of her car and the kids inside, and probably out shopping or whatever. I just found that so. It opened up a warm, beautiful thought because I'm a family man, always have been, and I just found that so beautiful to have that connectivity through the Coltrane home. I imagine both of you have thoughts about this amazing location and how the foundation is looking to eventually open this up and share it with the world, that they may be able to feel all of that as well.
Well, I think the experience that you had was similar, that most people who go there to be inspired, to go there to, kind of recognize the home as a symbol of these great artists and what they were able to achieve. Uh, but in the same time, yeah, they do recognize, yeah, they were just regular people raising a family in this modest home in Dix Hills, Long Island. Um, so for as much of the energy one feels when they walk through those doors, I still feel it personally, and I've spoken with countless people who visited the home and had that experience. Um, that's palpable. There's something very beautiful about the space, um, and very inspiring about it. But also, I love the fact that that we can think of John Coltrane as, when some people do think of him as a deity, and or from another world, another planet. Uh, but he was one of us, and he was able to achieve these, the heights of human achievement, through the power of his creative will, his introspection and intuition, put him into another place, as an artist, that no one had really ever had gone before. Uh, Yet at the same time, he was still one of us. It's actually very inspiring to recognize that those heights that he reached, are obtainable, to those who, are committed to their craft, and committed to recognizing a broader humanity, and in everything around us. And the home definitely is a symbol for both of those things. The concrete, and then the abstract. The universe.
Yeah, I honestly, you you make the point so clear. It's, a lot of times people in creative music, creative visual art, dance, often you'll hear the terms of, it's kind of magic and this mental, connection. And certainly I don't suggest those things can happen, but I think the beauty and the miracle, and maybe what I felt there, looking out the window, John looked out as he was in that room authoring that great piece, is uh, uh, the real miracle is that these kind of heights are reached by human beings. We all have access, we all have opportunity through discipline and a lot of investment, and as you said, introspection and others, to achieve these heights, as opposed to writing everything off to magic and spiritual.
Yeah, exactly.
Just hard
Yeah.
work and careful and thoughtful processes by real human beings.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Important. Hollis, I have to. It's a bit of a tangent, but I think it's relative. I mean, so much of what you've done, well, Verve for sure. I think before that, I remember associations with GRP and others, but so many artists. And you know, what is your process when you experience an artist and you're in that position where you're looking to capture, especially creative artists, you're looking to capture the soul of what they're doing and figure out how to best present that to the public in
Mhm.
visual and other forms.
So I would say there are some characteristics that all types of creative enterprise engaged in. Um, the chief of which is courage and discipline, like the saxophone player. I have to do as much homework as I can when I approach a process, when I approach an artist. I also have to listen to the marketing of the record label and what they expect out of it.
Mm,
Listen to that and then synthesize what is the artist is trying to say on this record. What is the goal?
Mm.
And it's not a literal translation, but it's a visual translation of an idea. Because remember, when someone sees the album, they have not yet heard the music, but it has to be congruous to what's inside of the record. So how you do it, like, I remember my first assignment in my graphic design class with Milton Glaser was to go to the museum, Metropolitan Museum of Art, and find a piece of classical painting, use all the influences of that painting and design a record cover, but yet never show anything from the painting. So you must build a really large repository of information inside yourself, like any musician, any other artist, to know what came before you and to have a lot of things at your disposal to express yourself. So you'd see I've gone in many different directions to make covers. I've gone in places, in basements looking for images of John Coltrane, old downbeats, old metronomes, and trying to search out sources to find things. I mean, if I do my best, work hard, gathering the information, synthesizing the information, I don't have to worry about the result. But you must do the work.
Yeah, you mentioned courage. I think it's the answer I most often give because we tout the idea that Detroit Jazz Festival is a jazz festival. That's what we do. We don't run, and of course begs the question, well, what do you consider jazz? Sometimes it's friendly, sometimes it isn't. Regardless, the
uh-huh.
the creative process. I mean, if there was one word, it's courage, and
Yeah.
but that courage is based on a deep study of craft and language and history. It's not just the courage to ignore everything and jump off
No,
the
no. I tell art students all the time. I give them the first characteristics of creativity. The first one is if you start a project and you know the results before you finish, you're probably not doing it right.
Mm.
dig dig that.
And they go, ah.
Yeah, and they eventually start to recognize it's much more interesting exploring the unknown,
Yeah.
you know, uh, and
And there's something instinctual when you get to the place where you need to be like, ah,
yeah, it was right there all the time. You
yeah.
just again have the courage to kind of let these things come in,
Mhm.
or kind of broaden our awareness and get outside of our own sort of preconceived ideas about what art is or what it isn't, what jazz is, what it isn't. And that does sometimes it takes time. It definitely takes time, Um, but yeah, it's probably the greatest resource, once you study the history and build a skill set and have mentors, and kind of get out in the world and to see, which places resonate for you, what scenes and what other types of artists you want to be around and collaborate with, once you kind of get past that, it's best to go as to start to really trust your intuitions and instincts, because you can, all that trust comes on a foundation of, again, a lot of hard work and preparation, and then you need the courage to say, okay,
Yeah.
can I do this? Can I, are these intuitions sound? Is it important for me to follow my own voice or my own ideas? When it might be easier to just, play like the other guys and have,
Mail it in.
acceptance that they have, I think that's one of John's greatest gifts, and Alice as well. They weren't thinking about being anyone other than who they were as artists, as human beings, as creative people. They recognized, I think there was a sort of a higher kind of force that was sort of the ultimate sort of the ultimate guide, in terms of where they were going, and the value of what they were doing. I don't think they ever really had to question what they were doing, as long as they felt that it was being done in service of a higher order, higher power.
Yeah, I think in today's, I hate to sound old, but at 59, looking at the next stage, close. But there's so much out there. There's so much material and so much organization of jazz language, and I see value in so many things, even in some of the academic approaches. I mean, it's no disrespect to that, but it can often, and I'm sure we all experience this, as people come up, it can get very comfortable to emulate certain things, and that becomes your entire process is emulation. I mean, and as opposed to broadening one's palette so that you can synthesize that into something personal, it just is a very comfortable place to be, right? And I think what we're talking about here, I believe it was Phil Woods was talking about this when asked about this idea of developing as an artist, knowing that so many fine young players have technical, physical connectivity with the instrument and can do some wonderful physical things. And he was talking about, well, you need to travel the world. You need to taste good wine. You need to try different cheeses. You need to read poetry. You need to have a life that says to me, you're someone that has a perspective that matters to me. If you're going to create art, you need to come from a full life of perspective and experience, whatever that might be, in order for the art to have depth and validity and not just be about craft or
Right.
people like you or whatnot. And Hollis, I'm sure after the break here, I want to get into both, if you wouldn't mind, both of you a little bit, the unique path you took to get into the place you're at now creatively, but also the careers that you got into, because no one's path, especially in this arena, there's no set trail. It's very unique, and two great examples for different reasons of that in front of us. So when we come back, maybe we can just touch on that a little bit. We have a few questions that are in that rail, and I think it would be of great help to some young people to give them a sense of the paths you chose to walk in, the opportunities and challenges that they presented. So
That's happening.
good. So with that in mind,
Thank you.
please, by the way, if you would like to ask a question, we've got several coming in. Please do so. You use the chat feature here on Zoom and send it in. It comes directly to me, and I'm going to get to some of those right after the break. But right now, we're just going to take a couple of minutes break from the conversation so we can hear this important message from the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation.
Hi, I'm Chris Collins, President and Artistic Director for the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation. We're looking forward to our exciting year-round programming that supports new and legacy artists, jazz education in our schools, and the proliferation of jazz in our communities and around the world. Your donations will support initiatives, including the new Jazz Infusion education program in the Detroit Public Schools and Community District, the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation's All-Star International Exchange Programs, which occurs in Japan, Panama, Europe, and our latest Havana Detroit Jazz Project, part of our Latino Jazz Outreach Program in cooperation with the Havana Jazz Festival. You also will support the J.C. Hurd Jazz Week at Wayne, the Youth Jazz Vocal Competition, the Collegiate Combo Competition, our Artist in Residence program, jam sessions and local jazz club programs, events at the future Gretchen Valet Jazz Center, our Jazz from the Cellar series, and of course, our signature event, the largest free jazz festival in the world. You can access information on all of these events and live stream content of many at our website, DetroitJazzFest.org. Please help keep our mission of free jazz alive by giving to the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation. It's easy to do. Just go to our website, DetroitJazzFest.org, and click the donate button. Your contribution will go a long way to support our plethora of year-round activities. Together, we can keep jazz free and alive in our community and across the globe for generations to come. On behalf of all the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation team and all of the artists who make the music happen, thank you. And please be safe, healthy, and filled with joy.
All right. We hope that folks jump in. Running a
Have
festival is
fun.
one thing. Running it completely at no admission is something else, man. The last one on the planet, and we're always anxious to keep up with the ever-expanding costs of production. So please consider it and watch the website. We're going to have a very special Angel of Jazz campaign celebrating the vision of our great Angel of Jazz, Miss Gretchen Valet. And as it's suggested there, on August 29th will be the grand opening of the Gretchen C. Valet Jazz Center, acoustically and in every weather way designed specifically for jazz. And you'll get a chance to check that out a little bit around Jazz Festival time. So watch the DetroitJazzFest.org for all of that. It's going to be a special place. And a place, by the way, Ravi and Hollis, I hope you, I'm sure you'll be there because we have an event in there actually and a rehearsal in there. But I'm looking forward to your perspective on what I believe is a pretty special jazz room for a lot of reasons. We put a lot of effort and tried to do it at the highest level to meet the artistic expectations and what jazz deserves, quite frankly.
Beautiful,
Thanks.
beautiful.
Where we left off, a number of questions, but this answers a few of them. Maybe, Hollis, if we can start with you. I never read your biography. Don't know if there is, but I certainly know your name from different places and got to know all the different things you were involved in and know a little bit about your very interesting path from youth to
Yeah.
where. Would you share with us a little bit those pivotal moments and those key moments of learning and challenges and things and that brought you to where you
I
are?
would, yeah, I'll start by saying I'm an immigrant. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. I came to New York as a teenager, and my mother wanted me to be a lawyer. I go to school, I come home, and I start drawing. One day, my girlfriend says, "Why don't you do that for a living?" I said, "Do what for a living?" She says, "Art." I go to art school and I take a class, and I'm doing as much work as the whole class. My teacher, a former president of an advertising agency, says, "What agency do you work for?" I said, "Agency? I lift boxes and I come to school in the evening." My mother says, "Everybody's got to contribute to the house." So I work and I go to school. And 6 days later, I was working at a penthouse on 40th Street between Park and Lexington doing advertising. The job died. A friend called me at a record label, GRP, and says, "Why don't you come by? I'm going to give you some free CDs." But in the meantime, in between work, I started making T-shirts and vests and shorts and stuff like that, and I was selling at festivals. So I said, if I'm going to go to a record company, I'm going to take some T-shirts and stuff. Take the T-shirts. I'm in the art department. Larry Rosen, the president, comes down and he's like, "What's in the bag?" I said, "Oh, I just have some T-shirts and stuff." And he says, "I want to buy one." I'm thinking, this is the president of a record label. I don't have a job. And I go, "No, you should have it. I wouldn't charge you." I get a call 4 days later. "Would you come and try out in the record art department?" I can't believe it. I'm killing it. I go in and I'm killing it. He said, "Would you want to work on staff?" I says, "No, it's okay, because I'm making so much money. I don't want to go on staff. I know the money's going to go down, right?" So eventually I got on staff, and there was a record called "It's a Matter of Pride" by Dr. Billy Taylor. I think that's the first CD I did for that label. I used a Romeo Bearden piece of art on the cover of that album. And a few months later, someone says, "Congratulations, congratulations." I'm like, "For what?" They said, "Oh, you just got nominated for a Grammy." Well, it terrified me because
Rich
I
Grammy.
was, yeah, I was not taking the art that seriously. Felt like a fraud, and the tickets came to the house, and I'm like, they're gonna call me back and said I want my tickets back. So I went to the Grammys, but I came back scared and imposter syndrome, and I said, okay, I really have to figure out what it is I did then and how I could repeat it and become more successful at doing it. So I got into serious study about what I was doing, and I took responsibility for it. And one of the artists I worked with was on Coltrane's reissues and so on. And I started doing these amazing box sets that had never been done, all because I was inspired by the dedication of John Coltrane. And I realized the importance of hard work and going into a place where something has never been done, but doing it because I had somebody I could look up to and follow. And John Coltrane did so much to me by his effort. You know, it's no coincidence that I happen to be doing the music of Coltrane. It's no coincidence that I started to go into people's basements and digging this. I wasn't getting paid for it, but I was doing it because I thought it was important. So that's the 10-second story about my life.
It's amazing. And what I love about it, we were talking about courage before, but to have conviction of one's vision, certainly to stay in the right place, whether you're criticized or you're told you're great. It doesn't matter if you have conviction and clarity about your purpose, but to always be questioning that conviction, challenging it, willing to have it challenged in order to make it stronger. And then, as you put, after you had the success and felt a bit of imposter syndrome, which I think everyone does at early successes, you turn to introspection. You turn to understanding what you did and how you can recreate it and elaborate on it. It not just I must have the golden touch. I'm just going to keep on. No, you took it as a reason to challenge and re-examine your conviction about your art. I think that's so powerful and shows a level of discipline that I imagine must come from your youth, because much like Ravi, John, and Alice, and so many musicians of that ilk, the level of discipline and investment is more than significant. So, super important stuff. Ravi, can you? It's such a different path, of course, um, and I'm again growing up in a similar generation. I had the great chance to hear there's a Robbie, one of Coltrane's sons playing saxophone was kind of the first thing I heard, and then I heard you play, and then things evolved, and so those of us around this long have been lucky enough to hear the amazing evolution and path and personality and all this wonderful stuff. But it comes from a very different place. Could you just give us? I don't know if I certainly don't know the your version of kind of your 10 seconds or so story, which is tough, but take your
Oh.
time.
Yeah, I'd love to do it in 10 seconds, really. The Reader's Digest version, It's like you start down a path, you recognize that the path doesn't end. You embrace that fact and actually get more energy from that. Like you just don't suddenly arrive and say, okay, I'm done studying. I'm done exploring, I know everything now, and now I can just be an artist. Um, yeah, it's the journey. The journey is everything. The journey is everything, you know, and committing to it and accepting it on its own terms, Um, early on we always want this and we want that, and we want to be like our heroes, and we want to have recognition and affirmation. Um, but soon we recognize that those really are not the goals, or at least, in the long run, the goals the priorities have to shift, um, again, who am I? What am I trying to say? Like Hollis was talking about the images that would go along with the recording. It's like, well, there has to be meaning, not only in the image, but also in the recording. What's the music say? How does that affect the imagery on with the album artwork? Um, those questions are, the fact that they're almost impossible to answer, you know, and um, and that it brings it to kind of just a higher place, I think, just a higher place, that it's these art forms are limitless, and uh, and our experience and our knowledge, all of those things, it's more as much as we can take in, the more that we can give, the more that we can put out, you know. But for me, yeah, I think there wasn't an inevitability that I would be a musician, certainly not a saxophonist. But I grew up hearing music. You know, I grew up in that house in Diggs Hills with my mother's recording studio down there. My mother and father started that project. He passed away before he could ever record there. Uh, but obviously my mother did all of her early records there, you know. So the sound of music, um, it just was always there. And it was always something that I loved and appreciated. And it just felt like it was a part of life. Um, um, I started playing the clarinet when I was maybe in junior high school, 12 or something, uh, but had a great love for all different types of music before then. Uh, R&B music was the music of Stevie Wonder, a lot of music that came out of Detroit, the Motown music. My Aunt Marilyn was the songwriter. My mother's sister, Marilyn McLeod, was under contract as a songwriter for Motown. And, my mother was still working quite a bit at that time. And occasionally musicians were coming over to the house. Again, just music just felt like it's a part of who we are, you know. When the bug really hit me, I was older, I was in my teens, really, and though I had heard my father's records, I was very young when he passed away, so I don't remember hearing his sound in that house in Diggs Hills, and if I do, it's in a very deeper place in my in my memory and my subconscious and unconscious, in my somewhere in my being, I can sense him, but actual memories, physical memories, clear memories, I don't have. But the music always resonated. It always made sense to me. Um, but it didn't hit me until later. It didn't started pulling me toward it. You know, it was like something I appreciated beforehand, but when it started to turn me, like when I just, you know, when your head just started to go to the, you have to kind of examine what's going on, and then everything else suddenly, you know, kind of faded away, you know, and I just got drawn to the music. I got drawn to the saxophone and jazz. Uh, so I moved from from the clarinet to the saxophone after high school, and I loved the music, so I was playing for my own enjoyment, really. It wasn't a plan that this was going to be a career that I would pursue. I don't think I was that ambitious at the time. You know, I was a late bloomer, and you know, just being exposed to the music, being exposed, hanging out with musicians. It's like you realize these are the hippest, coolest people in the world. You know, and so I was really just excited about going in these directions, but again, it didn't. I wasn't thinking that this would be what I'd end up doing for the rest of my life. You know, um, and I started studying. I went to a school called California Institute of the Arts. Charlie Hayden was the artistic director there. And when I told my mother that I was interested in studying jazz and playing the saxophone, she said, I think she was happy. She had never, ever pushed any of her children into being musicians or carrying on the torch or whatever, you know, playing jazz or playing saxophone. She just was always very supportive of whatever it was that we were interested in as young people, you know. But she said, yeah, okay, go study with Charlie. Go study with Charlie, you know. So that's how I ended up at Cal Arts. Um, I went there to learn how to play, essentially. I think I was 20 years old. I was 21 years old at that time. It's 1986. And each year was like an experiment, you know. It's like, I don't know if I could do this, but I'm enjoying this. And each year it felt like, okay, keep going, keep going. And to the point where, yeah, I started to play gigs, and people started to call me. And then Elvin Jones called, and it was very premature when I played with Elvin. I was, you know, but it's one of those things, you have an opportunity like that. And Elvin called me on the phone. It was actually Keiko called, Elvin's wife, Keiko Jones. And she said, are you free in a couple of years, available in a couple of years to do some gigs with Elvin? I said, in a couple of years, yes, I'm available. And she said, are you available now? And I said, well, no, I'm in school. I'm still studying and working things out. And then she put Elvin on the phone. And so Elvin was asking me, you know, questions about where I thought I was musically and how my studies were going, things like that. And I said, you know, I'm still studying. I'm not ready yet. You know, and he said, I want to help you get ready, you know. So, you know, I couldn't say no twice to Elvin Jones. That's kind of the bottom line. It was just, you know, they were beautiful, beautiful people. And it was a really scary time for me, but also an amazing time for me. And that was still kind of an extension of what I was doing at Cal Arts. I'm still not thinking that this is what I'm going to be doing my whole life, but this is the only thing I want to do right now. You know, this is the only thing I'm focused on, the only thing that I have a passion and love for. So working with Elvin allowed me to tour for the first times. I moved back to New York at that time, and I got swept up and caught up in this beautiful world of music, beautiful music world, and the world of creative music and creative people. I just kind of knew that's where I needed to be, you know. And so today I'm still in that continuum, I guess. You know.
A very human approach, as it often is. And I say this from my and many of my my colleagues' perspectives. It's so fortunate and just hip that there is the the I hate to even use the word legacy, but just that continuum from John and Alice Coltrane
Hmm.
in music, because I know your other, there are other things happening and have happened with your siblings that are, wonderful things in this world, but
Of
to
course,
have
Michelle
that
is
continue
an
through
excellent
you, and
singer. My
I'm sorry,
brother Randy was an excellent musician as well.
yes, indeed, and to feel that, to know that we can all experience that. It's not about continuing what they did or trying to keep it alive because it's gotta,
It
it's
ain't
forever.
going nowhere.
It's somewhat rare at that level, and as people always think if you're a musician, you're going to just encourage all your kids to start playing piano at 2 years old and go. And
Mhm.
it's probably often the opposite. It was for me and many others. You know the tough road that's ahead and the kind of commitment, and it's not for fun and games,
No,
necessarily.
no.
Uh, the challenges, so it often doesn't happen. So there's a beautiful thing there that the Coltrane experience continues genetically in some way. It's quite rare and beautiful, man. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
We're going to wrap it up. I just wonder if you could just give us just a quick sense. Friday the 30th, opening night at Detroit Jazz Festival will be the premiere of this Translinear Light. This is this version, this current. Can you tell us a little bit about the musicians and the others that you're bringing with us? We have quite an entourage coming down.
Yeah, I hope we can all fit on the stage. Well, we're using Translinear Light as the title, and we will play some music from that particular recording. Uh, but we're also going to again recognize all of Alice's musical works, from her early works on Impulse, to material she did on Warner Brothers, and to also her the music that she did with her ashram, her spiritual music. Um, and we've commissioned some new arrangements to be written. We're going to also try to play some of her arrangements. Um, and we have an amazing group of players playing in the band. Jeff Watts, who's also, well, he was a part of the Translinear Light recording, and Bob Hurst, another great Detroiter, playing bass. Brandy Younger, of course, now is real the standard bearer for jazz harp and creative harp music. Who's I met her when we did Alice's memorial service in 2007. I knew that we were going to play Alice's music, but I didn't know any harpists. I didn't know one harpist, who was doing that, or who was aware of Alice's musical approach on harp. And suddenly Brandy Younger appeared. This was in the days of MySpace. I think I found her on MySpace. She was just starting her career out, and I've been playing with her ever since. She's really just, as everybody knows at this point, very, very, a very special artist. So and two fabulous pianists, Courtney Bryant and David Varese. We're going to be going from organ to piano to synths. Uh, and combining that again with the sound of the harp. Again, we just really want to try to cover as much as Alice's sound as possible, and supported by, this chamber orchestra, again, kind of utilizing Alice's kind of broader vision for her music. She loved the sound of strings, so we're going to be utilizing those strings as much as we can.
Cool. That's great. Hollis, you're joining us for that affair, I hope?
I hope so too.
Me too. Come on, man.
I've
You're
had great
doing
times
that.
in Detroit. I've had great times. I've done records with Regina Carter in Detroit. I've come to Detroit and I've always enjoyed the city.
Yeah.
Well, I would certainly like to have a coffee with you and talk about some other things should you see anything that inspires you. Collaborations abound. It's why we exist at the Detroit Jazz Fest, looking to encourage artists exactly to think about those wonderful things that could happen if there was a venue for it. Well,
Yeah,
we're trying to
yeah.
put that venue there.
Beautiful.
As I said, for the night before opening night, the grand opening of Gretchen C. Valet Jazz Center, which is a 340 seat acoustically backline. We got Steinway sent us 4 Model Ds to choose from.
Wow.
We've got this great Model D, and then downstairs is Dee Dee Bridgewater's. Gretchen named it for Dee Dee, and it's like a club. It's like a hip downstairs club, man. 100 and
I
some
see.
seats, and I can't wait to share it with you because it's a new tool. It's an instrument here in the Midwest that I think is going to
Mm.
be very important and allow for some new things. In fact, for the opening night, we're featuring Brandy's trio, the tribute to Dorothy Ashby, which is
Mm.
great, another great Detroiter. And then we'll be hanging out down in Dee Dee's after that. So plenty of opportunity. And if you come, certainly I hope we have the time to check it
I will
out.
look forward to it. Thank you.
I will definitely be there.
Yes. I hope so, man, because I got a lot of stuff built around.
Yeah, I can't
We
wait to
don't
see
take
the venue. It sounds incredible, and
very,
uh,
very special.
many congrats to you guys for making that happen.
Well, it's a joint effort, Wayne State University, and the endowment went to them and the building, but it was Gretchen's vision, and then a lot of hard work to realize it, so that it's not like jazz, a little side thing. It's jazz as important as any other art form on the strip here, and it really shows. And would love guys like you to be involved and interested, and maybe see some opportunity to do something you want to do there, and I'm here to help make it happen. So.
I can see it already.
Great, great. Well, God bless you both for joining us. We're about out of time. We got quite a few of the issues brought up here, and I encourage everyone, please come down to the 2024 Detroit Jazz Festival, August the 30th through September the 2nd in downtown Detroit, or see it on the live stream. You can get that at DetroitJazzFest.org. It's all free, no admission, although there are opportunities for certainly contributions and support, so we can keep it free forever. The number I like everyone to know is, believe it or not, this festival is about $5 million has to be raised every year to keep a premier festival like this jazz and to keep it free. And we are committed, but we certainly need everyone's help. In the meantime, come on down, enjoy the music, and get to meet amazing people like this sitting right next to you sometimes, hanging out. Yeah. So thank you both, Hollis King and Mr. Ravi Coltrane. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
joining
Chris.
us.
Thank you, Chris.
And thank you, Hollis.
Thank you, Ravi. Great seeing you.
And thanks,